Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining me for another episode of The Jail Widow. It has been a good week since I've been on here last, and I am just so blessed to be here tonight. It's been a long day, but here I am. I'm on. I am going to give this a hot minute for people to hop on, so we'll just visit shortly. I have been on the James Crumbley trial all day long, and it has been a day. I'm trying to see if I can hear myself. Great, everything's working wonderful. He was found guilty 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. So I have been doing on my YouTube channel court commentating, kind of calling it sort of your alternate juror. That's what I've been doing. I have Rachel. I think I have multiple people joining me. Yay! I'm excited. I'm going to pull up the comments. I have to exit out of this. I'm just giving it a minute for everybody to hop on. It's one of those things that I just don't like running into things too fast because I don't want people to not be able to join in and miss out on part of what's going on. All right, so let me scroll down to comments. Hi, Heike. Thank you for joining. Oh my gosh, I appreciate you. If you are watching me, thank you so much. Way you can help me is to like, comment, and share. Actually, give hearts. Whatever you want to do, I appreciate you so much. For those of you who don't know me, I am AdaKay. I am a jail widow, and I lost my husband to prison. And I am here to share my story and give my personal advice, also to give some maybe resources for those of you who are going through this, whether you're a wife or a husband or a parent or a child with somebody going away to prison or has been arrested. Please let me know, and I'll be happy to help you as best I can. And I have somebody who's messaging in, and it's messing up my page. I love Instant Messenger, but man, it takes over everything when you're on a live, as I just found out. Okay, so I'm going to play one more video for you, and then we'll get started. Welcome to The Jail Widow. I am AdaKay, and I lost my husband to prison. This is my story, my experiences, and my survival journey. This is not legal advice. This is where jail widows gather together to support and encourage one another. I just like that. And that's the goal. I want to be here to support and encourage you. So, one of the first things that happens is with my story, I was with my husband when he got arrested. They had served a search warrant on our home and on the business and whatever else they had. I was there when they arrested him, and I was totally in shock. When I got up that morning, I had no idea by the time I went to bed at night, I would have my husband, who I never thought did anything wrong. He was a very soft-spoken, gentle soul, would end up where he did. He was well beloved in the community and his family. No one had any idea that this was going to happen. I'm not here to state whether he's guilty or innocent, but he was found guilty. He does, sorry about that, y'all. He does continue to claim his innocence, and that is fine. I'm not here to share the name, the details of the crime, or any other information. But I am here to share with you the process and some of the things you may encounter as a family member or a loved one. So for me, the biggest situation I faced is that they arrested him and took him off. They told me where they were going to take him. It was out of town jail. I was standing there like I had no idea what to do. I had no idea where to go. I didn't know what questions to ask that I should have asked. So luckily, I had enough wit about me to immediately start calling attorneys, and I found an attorney. Then I also called his mother and my parents to come in from out of town because I had 2 young children, and this was just more than I could handle alone. And that's key number 1. You can't do this alone. Sometimes people are arrested and only spend 15 days in jail, but I'm talking about the ones who are going to be spending at least a year or more. The ones that may not even come home. So unless you've studied or had experiences in regards to criminal processes and arrests, no one is ever prepared to receive a call or to be there when your loved one's arrested. The first thing I could say to you is stay calm. When you get the call or the first time you talk to them, well, first of all, I didn't believe my husband committed this crime. I thought this was a heinous crime, that there's no way he could have done this. So I was very supportive. I stayed supportive. I didn't do anything that would allude to the fact that I may not be supportive. In fact, I said, I'm going to stay with you. I don't believe you did this. You're innocent until proven guilty, all those things. I went into survival mode for my family. So on the opposite end, it is super stressful to get arrested. It changes the dynamics of the family. We were not a couple that fought a lot, and our disagreements were very mild, I believe, compared to some people. I don't really recall, but maybe 1 or 2 disagreements in the time we were married that really got to me. And after the arrest, that slowly started changing. Your spouse is going to be extra stressed, as well as you, but you're not the one that risks going to jail. The arrest process is a brutal and a stressful situation. One of the things, I'm sorry, guys, I got to adjust. Oh, my back is hurting. I've been in this chair for 5 days. So when you get arrested, one of the first things that happens, of course, you get handcuffed, put in the car. They go down to wherever the booking is, and it is very humiliating. If you're arrested and you have to stay in jail and be bonded out, or you're going to be there for any given period of time, you're stripped of all your clothing. You're stripped of your identity, and it is a very scary situation to be in. The jail or the holding cell or whatever is often very cold. It's uncomfortable. You're not in your plush bed anymore. It's a very sterile environment. You get a mattress about yay thick. You get a little blanket about yay thick. It is just a very bad thing to go through. So one of the best things you can do is, number 1, stay calm and don't argue. But the other thing is, don't discipline or reprimand, even if they're guilty. At this point, you just got to get through the night. Your anger, your disappointment, your frustrations, all that can wait till later. You've got a lot to do and a lot to discuss, both with them and the lawyer, to get them out of jail. For the first part, you need to focus on information. I wish I knew that. I did not have enough information to make the right decisions. One is, what is this process? I should have asked, will he see a judge that night or the next morning? How is this going to go? State and federal are different as well. Sometimes they have a magistrate that they do twice a day. Sometimes it's once a day. If they're arrested on a Friday night, they may not get out until Monday morning. So you need to ask the questions as how soon are they going to see a judge? Ask where they're going. Ask for the contact number of where they're going. And ask them, do they have an estimated amount of time before they can make their free phone call? One of the other things I wish I would have known luckily we got an attorney, but one of the things you need to do immediately is contact a bondsman. So, let me make sure I'm not missing my notes. Oh, the other thing you want to know is exactly what they're being charged with. That's very important. And you shouldn't allow them to leave, if possible, without getting that information. Because when you start placing calls to the bondsman, you need to know that information. You also want to document the date and time of the arrest, and that way the attorney will have that and can start working. Now, sometimes the police officer or other agency who's talking to you about the arrest, you can ask them the same questions, but they may or may not answer. Be prepared, okay? One of the things that I kept doing that I felt I did right was I kept reassuring my husband. At that time, I was saying, I'm not going to leave you. Let's work through this. Let's get this taken care of. And that's what we did. So, for example, if your husband gets arrested with a DUI, or your wife, then call the DUI attorney. There are certain attorneys that, even though that they are criminal, they kind of have specialties. So when you call an attorney, know what they're being charged with and ask if that is something that they specialize in. The next step is you're going to have to post bail. That may be difficult. Bail is a bail amount. So if your bail amount is $10,000, you have to come up with 10% in most places. It varies depending on the circumstances of the case, and also it varies on the location. Now, a lot of times people may not have cash or can find ways to get cash that fast to get their loved one out of jail. One other thing you can do when you contact your bondsman is they can also help you with that and facilitate that. Some people actually do even mortgage their home or put up a car or whatever for collateral. One of the other things that I really, really struggled with in the beginning for me was I didn't understand this process. I did not understand that I couldn't talk to him. I thought he could call me. No, he couldn't call me. So the next morning, my mother-in-law and I went to the town where he was at, and we went to the courthouse, and they brought him in, and he was shackled. That was the most devastating thing, I think, for me to see at that point. And he stood before the judge. They discussed it. The judge did agree to allow him out on bond. One of the reasons was he was the sole breadwinner for the family because I was a stay-at-home mom. He had to have an ankle monitor system, and he could only go from home to work, and he could only get haircuts on certain days of the week. He could only do certain things at certain times, and he must notify them before he does it. Even getting gas, he had to say, I need to get gas today, and then he would have to notify them. I've got to adjust again. Thank you. Then they have to notify them again when he's leaving. Okay? So, one of the things I want to talk about is the moment that they read you your rights or say you're under arrest, or honestly, in any time that they're in front of you, if they're serving a warrant, if they got that camera on, you have the right to remain silent, or any and all evidence can and will be used against you. Have your spouse exercise their right to remain silent. What people don't understand is the moment the law enforcement officers makes contact with you, everything is now possible for evidence now because of those cameras. Most officers wear them and record all of their conversations. This can put your spouse in a dangerous situation because anything they say will be used against them. It's also very common for spouses to have long, drawn-out conversation with the police officer during the investigation. This happens because the spouse may believe that he or she can talk their way out of the situation by clearing up the misunderstanding. Even worse, sometimes people argue with them and get aggressive, and now both of you are gone. I remember when they were serving the search warrant and I finally got to see my husband. I had came home to find everybody at my home, including my husband and all the agencies, tossing my house. And one of the things that I really struggled with is I was trying to justify and save him. No, this can't be because this and because of that. And luckily, it didn't hurt us at the time, but it could have. It's very important for both of you to zip it. Zip it. Understand the officers can be real friendly. They can be really nice. And they will and often do lie. They are permitted to deceive, manipulate, and lie to get information. So what you need to say politely to the officer is, Officer, I would like to exercise my Fifth Amendment right to be silent, and I request to have my lawyer present for any more conversation or questioning. By doing that, they can't ask you, well, they can ask you more questions, but the problem is they're betting that the more questions they throw at you, sometimes you'll start caving in. Even simple questions of, where did you work before you were here? What are the names of this? Or what did you do? They kind of get a little friendly, and then they start weaving in questions about the case, and then you start talking. Zip your mouth. Nothing. They ask you how old you are. Sir, here's my driver's license. That's it. It's very important. Now I want to talk more about bail. One of the situations is this. Number one, do you or do you not post bail? No matter how mad you are at the person, no matter how upset you are at the person, you have a risk of that person's case being hindered or even made worse for them if you do not post bail. Now remember, the moment that person is engaged with the police officer, all the way through transport, the moment they're in the facility where they check in the prisoners, the moment they go through the process, the moment they hit the floor of their pod, everything is recorded. Every conversation is recorded. Your phone calls are recorded. Your letters are censored and monitored. Everything that they say and do is recorded and can and will be used against them. So when you talk on the phone, it's very important that you do not talk about the case. Writing is somewhat better, but the best thing to do is get in a position to where you can get information through the attorney. We'll discuss that another day. Also, I want to go back to the bail. Keep in mind the money you pay on the bail will not go down the drain. The money goes into paying the court costs in the case. So if they're found guilty and there's a bunch of court costs, all the money you paid on bail goes towards that. Okay? Once you've hired your defense attorney, let them do all the work. It will go slowly. The wheels of justice move slowly. So bond them out as quickly as you can if you can. If there's no way to bond them out, then what you really need to do is remember to keep your conversations to what's going on with kids. How are you doing? Do you need money in commissary? Do not talk about any part of the case on the phone. It's important for you to attend any and all pretrial hearings. You need to dress appropriately. If you don't know, ask your attorney. When you go, it might be best you take a friend with you. Just checking over my notes. Oh, by the way, when you go see the attorney and you've posted bond and you go see an attorney, and ask the attorney if they could be let out on what is called pretrial bond. I'm trying to remember the word. Basically, it's where they can be let out on bond, but they have an ankle monitor and they can go see the lawyer. It's like home arrest, basically. Sometimes that can help lower the bond. One of the things that I did not get informed of is when you hire an attorney for the person who has been arrested, that's their attorney. They can't advise you what to do. They may give you a little bit of things if it affects your spouse. I know it may be tight financially as it is, but hire yourself an attorney. Go talk to one for $100 an hour or whatever it is. Have your questions listed. Be very specific. Don't chit chat. Get to the point so you don't waste the time that you have with the attorney. Because I wished I would have done that. It would have protected me all the way through this process. Even if I had visited an attorney maybe 2 or 3 times in the 3 years and just paid them the hourly fee, that would have been fabulous. I didn't know to do that. It kind of hurt me in the end. Sometimes these cases can resolve without going to trial, but I'll be honest, this conversation is really for those who are actually going to be going away for jail. One of the things that I tried to do from the get-go was try and reclaim your life. And I want to check my notes before I go any further on that. Prepare for court appearance. I've done that. Okay, so let's talk about the process of getting your life back. Depending on what the case is, depends on where you live. If you are lucky enough for the arrest to not be on the news, then you will not deal with the media aspect. So I'm going to put that on a side note in a minute. But understand, now on Facebook, they have these busted pages where you can how do I put this? There's a lot of ways people can find out if your spouse has been arrested. Rachel, I'm reading her comment, don't get state-appointed attorney. All right, a lot of the state-appointed attorneys are young and don't have the experience that the other attorneys have. If you can at all get your own attorney, it's worth it to do it. But sometimes if you absolutely can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed. If I was in those shoes, what I would do was use the state-appointed attorney for my spouse, and I would put, if I only had $1,000, I would buy time with an attorney, $100 at a time, $200 at a time, whatever I could do, because you need to be protected, especially if it's a crime that is a federal offense or it's something that they're going to really go away for more than a year. I'll get into that in another episode. So the moment he was arrested, I got him home. That was on a Thursday. Friday, he came home. And on Monday, the news media swarmed my house. It was all over. It was from the East Coast to the West Coast, and we're in Central Texas. It was a very, very difficult case. If this case is something that involves someone passing away, drinking and driving, armed robbery, and more serious crimes that I'm not going to say, then you really, really, really need to keep your mouth shut and stay out of the eye of the media as much as possible. Don't answer any questions. Your name, nothing. The moment you open your mouth and say anything, what is your name, or how old are you, or where's your husband, or what do you believe? Is he innocent or guilty? And they berate you. The moment you open your mouth, you're screwed. Don't open your mouth to the media. I made the comment that I am going to support my husband until I see evidence that states otherwise. And that bit me in the butt a little bit later in time. So your spouse is now either gone and waiting, can't bond out, or he's bonded out and y'all are at home. Part of the problem is that you're going to deal with your family, your friends, your church, your work, all of your social groups. How do you handle this? How do you live while you're in this state of limbo? Number one, you do not owe any anybody any explanation of any kind. Nothing. Hear me again. You do not owe anybody an answer. You don't have to comment. You don't have to explain. You don't have to discuss it. Nothing. Okay? At all. The problem is that we're of a society that we believe that we have a relationship with you or we know you, that you owe us an explanation. It's your private life. It may become public. Keep it private as much as you can. Family. I would sit down, have either a Zoom call, FaceTime, personal one-on-one discussions with those that you want to know what's happening. Depending on the crime, they need to know because you are going to need the support. But if they're not going to be supportive and they're not going to help you and they're not going to listen to you and they're not going to walk beside you, then I would say let them know this has happened and we're not going to discuss it any further under the advice of our lawyer, which they will tell you, do not discuss this case with anyone. I guarantee it. That's what they're going to tell you. So that kind of gives you an out to a point with discussing this with people. Okay? Very, very important. But when you do discuss it with anyone, make sure it's in confidence and it doesn't go anywhere. And if you can't trust them to keep it there, then don't discuss it with them at all. You will need to build a support system around you and your husband or wife. When it comes to your friends, remember, I don't know, in psychology and in lives, we've probably heard it, that our world is like a bullseye, and in the middle is the very closest of people called the inner circle. Husband, children, wife, maybe parents, that kind of thing. And then with each ring, they get further and further away from you, the less importance they are to you. And people move in and out of those circles in different phases and stages of life. Your friends are not in the inner circle. You owe them even less of an explanation if you don't wish to give one. The problem is that when people think they're your friends, they think they have access. And some of them do. I trusted all of our friends. That was a mistake I made. I told them everything I could tell them to help me get through this. And to this day, not one single friend that I can recall knowing before the arrest. Now, after the arrest, I had people from my church that I was not friends with become family. The people who have come alongside of me after the arrest are the ones I'm still friends with today, for the most part. Not everybody. I mean, people move, lives change. But the thing is that you need to understand that your friends may or may not stay your friends. That's important. So pick very wisely who you allow into this inner circle to support you. You need confidants. You get a counselor. A lot of insurances will pay for so many sessions. Very important, depending on the charges in the case. Get a counselor. Take care of your emotional health. Keep your friends that you trust close, and those that you're not too sure about or don't trust that much, just say, yes, it happened. We're dealing with it. Please pray for us or whatever. And that's all the information. Because let me tell you, the prosecutor will go to everybody who knows you and find people who know you and will question them. And whatever you've said is now going to be shared. Workplace. Your workplace, not the spouse's. Once again, need to know basis. Do tell your boss or your supervisor, because you're going to have to take time off from work for court. But you don't owe them an explanation of what the charges are. You can just say that my spouse is having some legal issues. I am going to have to attend court. I will need to take some time off to see attorneys, and I will, whatever the procedure is for you to get that time off is what you'll do. You don't need to tell them what they've gone to court for if they don't already know from social media or media. People in church or other groups and social groups you're with, once again, those you're real close to, keep them close. But don't be surprised if, in my experiences, that they come and go. Okay? Some people are not, sorry, I had a message. Some people are not capable of handling some of this, depending on how serious the case is. Some people are highly triggered. Some people just don't have the ability to handle it. It becomes too stressful. It's hard for people to watch, especially friends and loved ones of yours, to watch you struggle through this. I want to talk about your kids for a minute. I've touched on it before. The first week is, I think, other than the week before trial, is one of the most stressful weeks, because it's like you have a tornado of activity and there's things that you got to take care of in that very first week. And then your children are feeling that energy, seeing it. They may be hearing things. I sent my children to my parents. It was January. I sent them to my parents because I didn't want the news media to see them. I wanted to shield them from what was happening because this was real serious. If you're in that position, I know how hard it is as a mother to not have your children with you, but you may have to make that decision. If the children stay in the home with you, sometimes the judge will order the spouse stay in the home under house arrest, but the children are not permitted to be in the home. That is devastating. And if that happens, CPS will get involved and you may not have a choice. So what I suggest is that depending on what the crime is, you really decide on what's going to happen with your children. Because I will say this from personal experience. It's best to make a plan for the children to go with a family member, even if it's just for a weekend, 2 or 3 days, a month, years, whatever the situation may be. Get them out of the home for the first 48 hours if you can, at least, if not maybe longer, so you two can freely talk and deal with what you have to deal with and not have the stress, number one, of taking care of them, but number two, they don't have the stress of watching you two go through all this. It was the best thing I did. The hardest thing I did out of this entire experience was to say to my parents, I need you to take them and go. They live 7 hours away from me. I'm in Texas. I'm in the central. They were at the opposite side of the state. I cried so hard. I felt like I ripped my gut up. And it was the most difficult thing I ever did. I did it. And because my spouse was ordered to stay in the home without the children. Now, don't assume anything with that, because there's a lot of times that happens, not just with one particular crime. There's multiple reasons for this to happen. They went with my parents, and I had no idea how long they were going to be gone. But at the same time, they were very, very young, and they did not have to watch us go through, because the first week was a lot of hard decisions, a lot of discussions, a lot of soul searching. We had attorneys coming in and out of the house until we could get everything working with the monitor. We had his mother coming in and out, us dealing with finances, dealing with banks, dealing with work, dealing with too much. So be prepared for that. Even if you just send them to a friend's for a weekend, you're going to need the time. The other thing is what to tell your children and how much. If the spouse is going to be home for a given period of time, the children are going to have to be home. I didn't tell my children until their father was sentenced or found guilty. But one of the things I was prepared for if it came up was, you know what? Sometimes people get accused of something that they say they didn't do. And so we have to go to court, and then the judge or the group of people will decide whether they did it or not. It's called going to court. Just because somebody has been accused of something, and you, depending on their age, just because someone said someone did something doesn't mean they did. That kind of conversation is fine. But if you sit there and say, oh, your dad got arrested or your mom got arrested for this or that, drinking while intoxicated or doing drugs or whatever it may be, don't give them that information, especially if they're young. Sometimes at a certain age, you just can't hide it. Okay? This is all my humble opinion. This is all my personal experience. This is from someone who's walked through it. You can go online and Google some things, and some of it's usable, but a lot of this stuff is written by people who have not physically themselves gone through it. It's one thing to have book knowledge. It's also another thing to have the life knowledge. One of the things that was a struggle for me was the moment it hit the media, everybody knew about it. And no matter where I went in town, hey, guess what? That's so-and-so's wife. This is what, you will get it. You got to have thicker skin. You're going to have to toughen up. And I really changed my life and my schedule. Went out later at night. At the time, one of the stores was open 24 hours a day. I do all my shopping after midnight. That's not feasible for us anymore. Since COVID, they're not open that 24 hours. Take care of yourself. Do things that you normally do. Stay in your routine as much as possible. If you have a job, don't quit it. Go to work every day. If anybody says anything to you, just say, I legally can't discuss it, but please pray for me, or thanks for your support, and move along as hard as it is. It's okay to have your tears. It's okay to get upset. Do it in the bathroom by yourself. As hard as it is. And once again, guys, I'm speaking from experience, and I was not always successful. The tears may come in a very unusual time, and it may be very difficult for you. I get it. But as much as you can, keep it out of your daily routine. Stay in a daily routine. If you go to church every Wednesday night, you go bowling every Thursday night, as much as you can. Now, here's the problem to that. Your spouse is on house arrest. They can't go with you. And I felt so guilty leaving my spouse at home and going to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. It was so hard. It was so hard for me to just go on with life to a point, go to work, go get groceries while the spouse was at home. But at the same time, I was the one bearing the comments and the criticism and the shame of the charges. My spouse was very sequestered or protected in a bubble at work and at home. Not to say he didn't get some of that, but I'm the one who faced most of the criticism or support. There was some support in public. Don't lock yourself up in the house. Don't allow depression to take over. Heike, they're not always allowed to go to church. Doctor's appointments dental appointments are scheduled, but church is depending. It really depends on the court order, and it depends on the pretrial services. It also depends on the church, depending on what the crime is. Sometimes a church may ask that they not come. That didn't happen in my situation. So, yeah, your life is going to be hell. I'm sorry. There's no other way to put it. What helped me more than anything was my church family and knowing my connection with the Lord. And in fact, my spiritual growth was at its biggest during those times of trials. It took us 2.5 years. During that time, I really learned who God was. I really learned what a godly family was. I really learned that I had more strength in my little toe than I ever thought I had in my entire life. You're going to have to learn to be strong if you're not. Find those who can hold you up. Man, there were days I couldn't hold my own arms up. There were days I couldn't hold my head up. There were days I called my spiritual mama 15 times just to get through the day. Mama, love you for putting up with that, and Papa, thank you for not getting too mad at me. But there were times that I was just falling apart. It's hard, especially when it's a public crime in the community. Now, if the crime is not a public crime in the community and you don't have that problem, bless you. But you've got enough other problems in your boat that you're going to have to deal with. So the next episode, I'm going to start talking about what you should do as far as your finances, what you should do as far as property, some of the things I wish we had done. I'm working on trying to get a lawyer to come in and visit with us a little bit. I'm going to be getting other agencies to come in. But remember, the biggest thing is, no matter what, at the end of the day, you will get through this. It is not something that you're going to have to walk through every day for the rest of your life. You will get to a point where life goes on, and you will learn that it's okay to smile and to laugh in face of the adversity. It's okay to go enjoy your child's football game while your husband is at home in pretrial services at house arrest. It's okay if your husband goes, no, it's not okay that your husband goes to prison. Don't get me wrong. Whether you're supporting them or not, but whether you believe they're innocent or not, the crime may have been against you. That puts you in a different boat, and we'll talk about that as well. But it's okay to have joyous moments in the middle of the storm. It's okay to take a breath and to get away and to stop and to relax. It's okay to take your children on a vacation. It's horrible to leave your spouse at home. It's horrible that they're going through this. But you've got to keep a sense of normalcy for you and your children. If you're a parent of someone who's going through this, it's just as hard. It's okay for you to continue having a life. Don't allow this situation to put you in shackles alongside the person. You can't help that person if you are shackled too. You need to break the bondage yourself, and you have to keep yourself in a healthy state of mind, physically as healthy as you can, because how are they going to get through this if you're falling apart right now next to them? I fell apart after, and that's okay too. I felt I was the strongest during the time of leading up to trial. Don't get me wrong, I had my days. But once the trial was over, the jury came back, and I came home. That's when I let everything fall apart for a few days. And that's okay too. So I will see you guys next week on Thursday night, Lord willing. I am going out of town again next weekend. I got a women's retreat. I'm so excited. So for now, may you be blessed. May you have a fabulous week. Thank you for joining me once again. Please comment, like, and subscribe. If you're watching this on my main page, I thank you very much. Please share it. It's the only way we can help each other. And there's not much support out there like this. I have a Jail Widow Facebook page. If you're not on that page, please go and friend me and subscribe. I really, really appreciate that. Also, I have a YouTube channel. It's called Jail Widow. Please go like and subscribe to that. That's the best way you can help me. I am blessed with this program to be able to stream on multiple media formats. So that is amazing. And I thank you for joining me once again. Have a good night. And y'all, let's rock it out. Friday is tomorrow. Saturday is the weekend. And I want all of y'all to enjoy it. Heike, thanks for joining me. Rachel, thank you for joining me. And everybody else, if I didn't see your comments, I will get to them when I get a chance. In the meantime, bye-bye.